actually think you're probably more of an elite athlete than anyone in the NHL. You know why? Dude, you've had to overcome cannolis, sauce, everything. These guys, I mean, what do they got up there? Poutine and stuff like that? They don't have what we have.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Talking Trash Podcast, back at it with another episode. Again, guys, like, subscribe, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our podcast, of course, sponsored by BioSteel. We have, I guess we'll call it an all-star edition. We have a major guest with us tonight, NHL All-Star, my fellow Paisan, Frank Vatrano. How you doing, brother? How's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
This is amazing, man, because, our podcast is fairly new and, we've connected, through social media and stuff. Social media is a crazy thing. You could just connect with people, and you've been so gracious to me, and we've always talked. And, man, it's All-Star 20. I don't want to do a typical interview where we start from when you first started lacing up skates, but you were a 2024 All-Star. Like, as a kid growing up, especially on the Northeast, like, was that a dream come true for you, like, to become an All-Star, like, right off the bat, like that? Like that, right off the bat, to me, like, to become an All-Star, that's got to be special for you and your family. Yeah,
let alone play, a game in the NHL, but to, obviously next year I'll be going in my 10th year and, being an NHL All-Star last year, it's something I never pictured before. And, being surrounded with a great family and great support group, I credit all of my success to my family and helped me get to that point. So, it was awesome, something I'll never forget. And, it was incredible.
Now, we actually started, like I said, we start things like everything else backwards here. We're starting with, like, recent success, but you just hit it on the head. I mean, one thing I've always admired when I researched you is we're so similar in that our families play such an important role for us, especially being Italians and growing up on the Northeast. And we were just talking about how Springfield and Danbury, there's so many similarities. And, I read that, your parents would actually drive you almost daily over an hour to practice. You know what I mean? When you were younger and stuff like that. I mean, just the sacrifices your parents have made for you. I know, and it's been documented, the things my father's done for me, even my mother, obviously. How important is it, that family bond that a lot of people don't have? I mean, it's just like you said, for me, I have everything I have because of them. And it's just, it's great to hear that from you.
Yeah, same, like you said. I think, kind of growing up Italian, your parents are, they can be hard on you at times, but, they always do what's best for their kids. They put their kids first, whether it comes to anything. And, like I said, I was fortunate enough for my parents to be able to drive me, an hour, from grade 2 all the way up until, grade 10, all the way out to Marlborough, Massachusetts. It's an hour plus drive, when I was young, 2 times a week, and then for practice, and then going to Boston on Fridays and Saturdays for games. And, the schedule got a lot harder as I got older. When playing juniors, you're practicing every day. Yeah. And you're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for them to make those sacrifices for me.
And you were the youngest of how many boys you said before? You're 4 boys in total?
I always say this all the time. My mom would say it too. I have 3 older brothers, but if you include my dad, that's a 4th.
Well, that is very true because like I said, my wife, I have an 18-month-old and she's basically has 2 sons now. Yeah. It's weird how it all shakes out. But and again, we keep bringing up the Italian aspect, but I know obviously being the youngest, and I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
You are obviously the favorite child. Am I right? Am I right in saying that?
Oh yeah, the youngest is usually the favorite, right?
Now I have one sister. She's younger than me. I believe I'm the favorite because I'm the boy. Yeah. But in Italian families, when you have multiple boys, it always seems like the youngest one was the favorite. So we're a little similar and different at the same time. Shout out to my sister Candace. I'm definitely the favorite. I feel that way. I think she feels that way too. But what's the age differences with your brothers?
So between me and my oldest is 12, so we're all actually 4 years apart. So I'm born in 94. My brother Mike's born in 90. My brother Greg's 86, and my brother Sammy is 82.
So it must have been tough growing up. Like I said, man, I'm picturing you guys, in the old days before we had phones and social media, you guys were probably fucking around, playing outside. You used to get jumped a little bit by the brothers?
I was always the younger one, so, whenever my brother had his friends over or whatever, when we were playing hockey in the driveway. I needed to fit in somehow. So I'd always play goalie out there, but I would always get the shit beat out of me by it wasn't my older brother Sam, it was actually my brother Greg. He just beat the shit out of me. And he'd be the one I was always actually out in the driveway with, just messing around. And he was always hard on me. He always, didn't matter what I did, I never won. He always won. He'd always come up with a rule that at the end,
pushed the goalpost back.
The end outcome, that one never went in. The end outcome, the classic big brother. But, I wouldn't change the way, I grew up at all. It was, it taught me a lot of mental toughness for sure, with some of the verbal abuse my brothers would give me, which is all fun and games. But no, in the physical aspect too. Nothing really too crazy physically, but they knew they were stronger than me and could hold me down however long they wanted to.
Well, listen, we use this word as an adjective around here. You were definitely a trasher in so many ways, and we're going to get into why you're a trasher, in my opinion. And mostly being a younger brother with that many older brothers, you have to be tough. And like you say, the mental toughness. And, you obviously excelled at hockey real early on. And we talked a little bit off the air. You also like baseball too, right?
Yeah,
You played baseball or whatever?
Yeah, I played baseball and hockey my whole life growing up. So it was hockey in the winters and then baseball in the spring and summer. So, some of my closest relationships come from, baseball. My best buddies who I grew up with from elementary school all the way up until now, we all played baseball together. So, I think in similarity, it's pretty similar to hockey, like the friendships wise and the great people that you meet through the game. And, obviously it's a sport. At a certain time in your life, you have to pick between sports. Not saying I'd play in the MLB or would have played college baseball, but I always had a love for hockey, and baseball was a pretty close second.
I think you made a real good choice, and you got. I think a lot of people will say you have one of the best shots in the NHL today. I was looking at highlights of you yesterday, and it's crazy because you have you score goals so many ways. I've seen you score. You get your nose dirty. You're in the crease. Sometimes you get some tips in, but your shot, man. And I did some research, and I think you credit a lot of your time on the driveway with ball hockey a little bit with your snapshot, because your snapshot is elite. And it's like, when I was listening to you tell this, I think it was with the Chiclet guys. Shout out to Spit and Chiclets, our friends over there. I think you were telling them you credit your snapshot to playing on the driveway, with hockey balls, really, instead of pucks. You know what I mean? And it's kind of true, like you said, because you're explaining how you can't really wrist shot a ball, really, right? So
no, exactly. I think you look at some of the greatest shooters in the league. I think everyone kind of shoots a little differently. If you look at one of the best shooter in the league, Austin Matthews, he kind of has that patent, kind of toe drag, and he releases it at a certain point where the goalies lose track. But for me, I like to shoot in stride, kind of off my front foot, and that's just, I think it's from shooting balls growing up, shooting street hockey balls.
I remember growing up, we played, like I said, we didn't even have an ice arena in Danbury when I got into. Coincidentally, the Mighty Ducks is really what got me into hockey, the movie, and which we're going to get into later, because you guys have so many. If you guys, listen, let's kind of, we don't have to do this in the order. You guys on the Ducks right now, all right? You guys are so stacked with talent. Yourself, the young core you guys have, Mason, MacTavish, all these guys, Zegras, all the skill that you see today, and we talk about it. I wasn't even close to being at any sort of level pro, but the young kids today, is it odd to you? Because you're basically an OG in hockey now, right? You're going into your 10th season. You've been doing this for a long time. Do you see such a divide in skill? These kids today, they come up and it's it's unreal what some of these guys can do.
Yeah, I think hockey is, from when I was growing up, I know hockey is obviously taught a lot differently than, when I was growing up. I think you kind of were just put out there on the ice and, you can either skate or you can't skate. And then you move up a level. Now it's they're teaching these kids skills at such a young age, and a lot of small area stuff, which I never did growing up. It was basically you were right in full ice right away. And I just think hockey's came such a long way from when I grown up, and it's became more and more popular. There's more resources out there for these kids at a young age. And, you look at a lot of these kids too now that are coming in the league as one sport athletes. They played hockey their entire lives, and, they dedicated their life to it at a pretty young age, and which I have an issue with still. It's a topic I always talk about. I think kids should play as many sports as possible, but I think you just see all the talent with all the younger guys. It's really changed. Now the skill, the gap level between skill is it's crazy. Everyone who comes in the league now is skilled.
It's crazy because I remember growing up watching hockey. It feels like once you got drafted, right, you'd hear, oh, so-and-so got drafted. It would take a few years to get you to the show, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, it's almost like the old days where guys at the NBA were going from high school to the it's insane. And, we'll get into it a little bit more. Your team right now, the Anaheim Ducks, just stockpile with talent. It's actually nuts. But kind of reverting back, I mean, you playing as a young kid, you eventually, and we talked about this a little bit as a joke. You got accepted to BC, or did you get accepted to BC?
I did get accepted. There's a little bit of a mishap there, and I was young at the time, just false scores.
Hey,
and,
listen, shout out. I mean, this man, Frank is a humble guy, man. He really is. And what I like about you is you're humble, and you did have a mishap. Don't be too humble. What exactly happened where? Because you did go into a big time college and then it all kind of ended. What happened, Frank?
Yeah, so I committed to Boston College a sophomore year in high school, and at the time, you're 16 years old and you kind of think you always have life figured out at 16, and I just wasn't the best student. I wouldn't say I wasn't the best student. I just didn't apply myself. I knew I always wanted to play hockey, and I didn't think grades or school mattered. I was already, committed to school as a sophomore, and kind of thought my shit don't stink, and this is what happens. I didn't really worry about school, and then all of a sudden it came to the time to sign my letter of intent, and didn't have the grades to get into school, so I had to obviously have a certain test score on the ACT to have a sliding scale of my GPA, which I had a 2.1 in high school, which everyone knows that isn't great.
Allegedly, yeah,
First time I took the test, I did terrible. I got like a 16 on it, and maybe a 4, I don't know, 16 or 14. And I called BC, like, hey, those schools, they're like, yeah, BC called me, like, yeah, those test scores aren't going to get into school, so you're going to have to take another one. Took another one, the one I cheated on. I got a 26, 20, whatever it is. They called me back, hey, that's awesome that you got that on the score, but the NCAA and ACT might look into it and investigate the scores, but if you don't hear anything, we'll see in the fall. What do you know happens a month later? ACT writes your scores are invalid for, you're getting investigated for cheating. You can either write back this letter why you did better, or you can take the next test. So, I write a letter back saying why I did better. They denied it. They wanted me to take a ACT one-on-one with a proctor, but I had to get my letter of intent signed by like May, which I found out later in the process. Took the SAT. I got like a 1550 on it, which obviously everyone makes a big deal because I think it's out of a different. At the time when I took it, it was rated out of a different scoring.
Yeah.
But a 1550 was pretty equivalent to what I got on my ACT when I cheated, and I called BC. Hey, I took the SAT. These are my scores.
Well, listen, guys, he allegedly cheated. There's no, there was never surveillance of you cheating. So we'll say you allegedly cheated.
Yeah. So they got the SAT score, and then I get to school in September, and they keep asking me what's going on, what happened to your scores, and I was like, look, I told you guys, and went to a meeting. It ended up going to a meeting with the admissions at BC, and before I could even get 3 words out, Dean of Admissions said I couldn't stay at school there, and didn't play hockey for literally. I transferred to UMass in January of 2013, and I didn't play another hockey game until.
So there's a gap there. It was
October of. So 2012-13, I didn't play another competitive hockey game till 2014-15.
Was your see? I'm envisioning me in your situation, and I could see me having to go home to my parents, and I could see my mom getting the wooden spoon out. I could see what was that like? Like what's? So I could see my mom just bawling, crying right away. Was your mom a crier if you got in trouble?
My mom
or what?
was stern, pretty. She's great. My dad is the same way. My dad doesn't really say much. He just kind of goes
That's
with the flow.
That's the worst, right? When they don't say much.
My mom's the one that will let you know her opinion, but when it came to like those situations with their kids and especially me, I knew I messed up and they knew I messed up, but they never once were mad at me about it. I think they were more mad about the school not protecting me.
Yeah.
And kind of letting it get to this point without them being involved. I mean, at the end of the day, I was 18 years old. So, when you get a call from your coach asking you questions, you haven't lived life that long. So you don't really know.
You think you know.
And that's so you kind of say things you're not supposed to say without, the proper guidance and stuff. And, my parents were more mad at the fact that no, I wasn't protected, but you know, it all happened, and
well,
everything happens for a reason. There's no bad blood between, you know, myself and BC, but you know, I mean, obviously I wish things worked out there and they didn't, but you know, things happen for a reason.
You just hit it on the head, and what I've learned in life, and I'm going to be 38 in the summer, and I do a lot with my boxing gym. So many young kids, you know, we guide and advise, and it's the same thing because when you're at that age, same thing with me. You think you know it all. You think this is the path, going to BC, probably going to get drafted, and you just know where it's going, and then you just get, you know, the rug pulled from underneath you. But it all happened for a reason because then you go on a tear. I mean, like I said, but you didn't get drafted, and that's one thing I love about your story is you know, being a trasher. It's an underdog story, and as skilled as you were, I did notice you didn't get drafted, and I love the fact that it didn't stop you because so many kids today. We talked about the skill level of these guys today, and same thing with boxing and other sports. These kids today are just so skilled, but I feel like mentally, the mental toughness is not where it used to be. You know what I mean? You know, our generation will call. I don't know where the generation line split, but I feel like you had to be mentally tough to I mean, I think a lot of kids in your situation would have crumbled at that, but folded, and would have never made it to where you are. I mean, how important was it to stay mentally tough? How much was it your family helping you with that? Because without a support system, I mean, you could be individually mentally tough, but if you don't have that support system, it's you're spinning your tires, really, you know?
I think a support system's everything, you know. You can always think you have everything figured out, like you said, on your own, but you know, when you need guidance, you need to go to people about certain things, like, you know, your family's right there for you, and you know, it's the best thing you could possibly have for a support group, and you know, they've been there for every step of the way for me, and I think, like you said, like I'm at the generation where, you know, I was born in '94, so like I think a couple years later things started to like switch. I don't know what happened, but you know, people, you know, just go through things differently, and kind of, you know, I think when you get taught tough love at certain points in your life, I think you know, not being put on a pedestal, which I think certain things now, you know, a lot of kids coming up in sports and stuff are always put on a pedestal by their parents, and you know, always, you know, they can never do no wrong, and you know, sometimes I'm not going to question people's parenting and all that stuff, but with my parents, it was always, you know, you work for everything that you get. My parents never put me on a pedestal or never told me how great I was. They always were like, you just got to always work for everything you get. You always treat everyone with respect. You never talk down to authority. Everyone who's your boss, you treat them with respect, and whatever they say is right. So, you know, I credit my parents with, you know,
we have so many similar. I'm talking to you and I'm smiling because honestly, it's so similar. I mean, it's crazy today because when I grew up, you had some crazy parents in the stands, but nothing. Today, I don't know if it's because it's social media, you see everything more, or people have just lost their minds. But it's like sometimes you're right. I see parents today losing their mind. It's funny because my parents, when they came to my games, baseball or hockey, obviously, my dad didn't say boo. He'd just stand up. He would always be at the top row and just watching, wouldn't say anything. Yeah. And my mom would cheer, but she wouldn't, you know, downplay
it's like the same
anyone.
Thing even now. Like I remember as a kid growing up, my dad would stand behind the net and my mom would sit in the stands. And even like now, it's actually funny. My mom and dad watched the games from separate rooms at the house. Yeah. My dad's like, I can't watch the games with your mother. She's too emotional.
Oh, I'm telling you, I can't imagine, you know, as a somewhat of a new parent now, my son's 18 months. I'm telling you, he softened me too, man. I got to tell you, I didn't think a boy. I mean, and you have a beautiful daughter, right? You said, I was so happy when I had, you know, found out we were having a son. And, you know, right away I'm thinking, oh, he's going to be a little trash, a little scrappy, a little bit. I didn't think a son could do to me what my son Dominic has done to me, man. I'm like, not that I'm soft, but I'm like, it's crazy being a parent now. And I kind of understand my parents so much more now, like how, you know, but same thing. My mom, she would be cheering, you know, my dad was just wouldn't say boo, you know what I mean? And it's got to be amazing for them to watch you. And honestly, we've just technically met, but I'm proud of you because, again, you know, you faced obstacles, man. You know what I mean? You face a lot of obstacles and you didn't quit, and that's really what it all is, man. I mean, you not getting drafted, did that light a fire under you at all?
I think so. I think at the time, you know, I partially blame myself for not being drafted. I think, as everyone knows, I wasn't the most in shape kid growing up.
Well, let's get to that because I got to defend you. I got to defend you, Frank, because, shout out to our guys over there at Spit and Chilligas. They're friends. But I saw your interview with them, and they were getting on your weight a little bit. I mean, and they were doing it in a polite way. Biz is a great guy, man. That's my guy. But they don't get it, Frank. I mean, we're East Coast guys. We're Italians. How can you really be in shape? Have you ever thought of? I actually think you're probably more of an elite athlete than anyone in the NHL. You know why? Dude, you've had to overcome cannolis, sauce, everything. These guys, I mean, what do they got up there? Poutine and stuff like that? They don't have what we have.
Yeah.
I actually give you more credit than anyone because, I mean, I could just tell we come from the same cloth and you were around the sauces, the meats, the friggin' pastries. I mean, what was it like growing up? Because I know Springfield's got some great restaurants, man.
Yeah.
And we talked about how shout out to Omar the Beast Bordeaux, one of the boxers we have out here in Danbury. We fought in Springfield a few years back, and we stumbled upon that restaurant, the Red Rose.
Yeah.
Unreal. I mean, Springfield's got some great restaurants, and you said your family has.
Yeah, my parents have Antonio's Grinders. So
well, we're gonna be what is it called again?
Antonio's Grinders and Pizza.
Antonio's Grinders and Pizzas, right in Springfield.
Yeah,
so we're heading out there next time we go sparring out in Springfield. That's where we're heading out. We got to put a link in the bio. Do they got social media or anything, or they're too old school?
Probably not. So it's too
probably
old
not.
school.
We're gonna put Antonio's up there, but we're gonna check them out. And but man. They were getting on you for your weight, but how hard was it, man? Because, it's funny because I never had a real athletic body myself because I can't stop eating. I mean, do you have a sweet tooth? Like growing up, what was your go-to?
I mean, I would always have, I still to this day, I love cookies and stuff, but even now, like, I could eat probably pasta and chicken cutlets for every single meal.
Yeah.
That's probably like my biggest weakness. I mean, that's usually my pregame meal anyway. But yeah, just, I don't know what it is. I think there's some guys that can, take 5 years to put on 10 pounds.
Yeah.
I could put on 10 pounds in 2 weeks. No problem.
I think it's just in our blood, man. I mean, we're built on carbs. I don't care what anybody says. You know what? I'm in a boxing gym, so a lot of these guys, they're all, these boxers, man, they're so depressed, and they try to act tough, but they're depressed. They got to watch their weight. They can't eat, so they get on me because I don't need to make weight. I'm eating whatever I want. So shout out to the Vatrano family. They did it right, man. They weren't counting your macros and stuff.
Nope.
Let this boy eat, man.
Yeah.
So eventually, I don't want to say your hometown team. Everyone's saying Boston Bruins was your home. Springfield to me is not Boston, right? We talked about the lines. Like Danbury, I tell people all the time, Danbury is not Connecticut to me. Danbury's like diet New York. To me, Springfield, you guys got your own identity out there, right? So it's like it's Western Mass. It's like you're right there with Connecticut. But you end up playing with the Boston Bruins to start your career, correct? And I mean, what was that like? Because I mean, I'm sure all your friends, your family, your support system, I mean, what a dream it is to kind of catch you at the start of your career, like, right? I mean, what was that like, man?
No, it was awesome. At the time, I was 21, so I played there, my early 20s, which was awesome. And, obviously it was an eye-opening experience playing the NHL, getting taught what it means to be an NHLer every single day. And I always tell people I wish I kind of played there later on in my career where I could have, had more success, and when I've kind of had things, you slowly figure things out as you go on in your career, and but I'll never, regret my decision to sign there. I think they taught me so many things coming into that culture in Boston of teaching you the right things of how to be a professional and how to treat people and how to be an everyday NHLer, and I'll never forget my experience there. And I'm glad I played there to say I played in Boston.
You said something I hear a lot of high level athletes play depending on where sport there is, but you just said like what it is to be an NHL player. What is the differences between not just even on the ice, off the ice? What is the difference? You could tell a young athlete watching this that have those aspirations, could be the next Frank Vatrano. What's the difference between playing the NHL and playing anywhere else, really?
I think the one thing that always sticks to me is guys always say is, it's easy to play one game, but it's hard to stay, to carve out a role for yourself. And it's something that's completely honest and it's true. And you have to find what things that make you successful. You could be the best shooter, you can be the best skater, but if you have other parts of your game that sometimes aren't there, you're never going to stick in this league. And you have to be noticed every single night, whether you're going to be in on the forecheck and you're going to hit people, or you're going to fight someone, you're going to block a shot with your face, you're going to score a goal. obviously everyone growing up is a goal scorer, and everyone who came from the levels before were the best players on their teams. So, when you're kind of that guy who's in between, being a top six every day or a guy who can play in your bottom six and be effective, those are the guys that, learn as they go on. It's like, look, I'm not going to be the 30 goal scorer I was in junior. I'm going to be more of a shutdown defensive role guys. And some guys either take that role and go with it, or some guys just always try to find that, identity crisis that they have where they think they're going to, always be that goal scorer that they are. But at the end of the day, the NHL is a hard league, and everyone's the best at their craft, and you got to find what makes you successful. And I think kids coming in the league, it's obviously kids are so skilled now, like we already talked about it. But there's more to the game than skill. I think it comes with work ethic and hard work and just working at your craft and finding what else makes you successful.
You just hit it on the head again, because it's like, again, so many sports, it's like you said, when you get, some guys seem to plateau and they're not willing to realize, hey, you know what? I'm not going to score 30, 40 goals. I need to be that bottom six guy. You know what I mean? I got to be the guy that gets in the corners, sticks his nose in dirty. And we'll talk more, but you do it all, in my opinion. I've watched film. I mean, obviously you've had a crazy breakout year, in my opinion. I wouldn't call it a breakout year, but I feel like everything clicked for you this season. You know what I mean? But you're not afraid to get your nose dirty. I seen you've had a couple scraps, and I heard you're an underrated. I could be wrong. Are you an underrated chirper? You like to chirp a little bit?
I love chirping. It's great. I think that just comes from being
the youngest boy,
my younger brother. Yeah,
that's the youngest boy. Is Brad Marchand a younger brother? Do we know if he has a young? He seems like he could be.
He is. I think he is. I think he has an older brother. Yeah, and a sister maybe.
Isn't it? I've been slowly learning in sports, but mostly hockey. The best chirpers, those guys. We know what we're talking about with a guy like Brad, and they seem to be the youngest siblings. Are you guys just that much of a pain in the ass? Because my sister could chirp a little bit too. Yeah. I feel like. It's funny how the worm turns sometimes. I just feel like the youngest siblings end up being the best shit talkers.
Because usually you have to, you have to survive. You have to survive and respond to something that was already coming your way. So yeah.
What's your favorite? Do you have a chirp? You don't have to say exactly what you said. Do you have someone you chirped that you just knew stung? Was there anyone that? Because I know there's a few times in my life where. Not even in sports, where you said something, whether you meant it or not, and you knew it affected them. I mean, I got someone I said something to once. I'm not going to say their name or what I said. I said something to him once years ago. And to this day, I know it fucks with them a little bit mentally. Is there anyone in particular, or even if you don't remember something you said to someone, is there someone you just, when you look at the game, when you look at the roster, like, oh, so-and-so's in the roster, I'm going to get at him. Is there someone you got like any sort of personal rivalry with?
I honestly don't remember. No, I mean, I chirp, but I try not to do anything like chirping about how bad you are or whatever. Yeah. I don't even know what I say half the time. It's just nonsense. But I figured out, 3 or 4 years in my career that every time I chirp someone for how say you're terrible or whatever, you can't skate, they would score the next shift. So I just stopped. I stopped doing that. I stopped chirping people about if they're bad or not. Even though no one's really a bad player.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, you have to have it, man. And that's what I love. That's why I love all these mic'd up videos sometimes you see with hockey. Not even so much in the NHL, but, shout out to Diamond Hands Daniel Amesbury. Couldn't be here with us today. He's out training in Colorado. And by the way, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, go back. We had our first day in the life video with Diamond Hands Daniel Amesbury from last week's episode. Make sure you go check it out. Ames, is like a brother to me. And when we mic him up, it's like... He always gets mad at himself because he's like, oh, I should have said this when I had the, you know what I mean? The mic'd up stuff is, have you ever been mic'd up in a game or anything like that?
A bunch of times.
Really?
I think they kept the mic off me a couple of times this year. But no, yeah, like you said, you honestly forget that you have it on.
Yeah.
So obviously it's better when you're playing against a team where you know it's going to get a little feisty and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes there can be some boring content, but sometimes there's obviously good content too.
Well, Frank, let's be very honest. We're cut from similar cloth. Being mic'd up isn't the best thing now, is it? So it's probably best guys like you and me aren't mic'd up. Yeah. But no, it's funny because Ames is a beauty. One day I know you're going to meet him. Whenever he gets mic'd up, and I can imagine, like, you want to have the best content. You need that legendary chirp. And then after he'll call me like, oh, damn, I missed an opportunity. I should have said this. I should have said that. But Man, I love, fans love getting like that inside track to guys and what it's like out there. You know what I mean? There's something about hockey, you're watching from the arena through the glass and everything. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it. And so let's travel back. I mean, after Boston, you go down to Florida. What was that like going down to Florida? Probably better weather, right? You like that?
Yeah, it was awesome. I think that was huge for me. I got put in a spot to succeed and, show, whatever the team would do. I can do what I can do if I'm put in the right position. And, I remember I'll never forget Dale Talon trading for me. And that was one of the biggest things that happened in my career. I went to Florida and established myself as a everyday NHLer. And, obviously when things happen in hockey, it's a business. So, when, certain people get fired and certain people take over, they have a different vision of the way the team goes. And, obviously I knew I was going to play my entire career in Florida, but I was there for almost 5 years. And on the Rangers trade for me at the deadline a couple years ago. And
Boo.
I think that's when things really turned for me is, I got put in a great position, to play with great players and playing in a top 6 role in the playoffs and obviously going on a great run and going to the conference finals. And, after that, obviously there was mutual, we were mutual on wanting to go back. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's a business and you have to do what's best for your family and whatnot. And I went to Anaheim. That's where I wanted to go if I wasn't going back to New York. And, I'm going into my 3rd year there this year, and I absolutely love it there. I love the way the organization's going, all the young talent we have. The way of living there is unbelievable. I don't think there's any better place in the world than, where we live.
Yeah.
And, like I said, hockey's obviously a big, important part of our life, but, way of living is obviously very important too. So, when you go to the rink, you have a bad day and, you're looking outside and it's 75 degrees and sunny, you can get away from the game of hockey a little bit, which is really nice about living there. And I think some good years are to come for us in Anaheim.
Well, coming backwards a little bit, you get traded to New York Rangers, and I booed because everyone who knows me knows I'm a Devils fan. But a lot of respect to the Rangers. Whatever. Madison Square Garden, right? I've been to MSG a few times. Listen, growing up, I went to Madison Square Garden for a lot of things. I'm a big Knicks fan. Went to the NBA Finals back in the day. Was lucky enough to have a few boxers actually fight in MSG and be able to walk into the ring at MSG. It was like the culture shock, right? It's like, growing up, I've been to the city a million times, but to go into MSG, and you scored some big goals. You had a great playoff. I was looking, I was researching, and I will say this about the Rangers. You know what, bro? I hate this because I'm a devil, man. I hate anytime I like that the loyalty. My hairs stand up when I talk about the Rangers. What I will give the Rangers is their goal horn, right? Like when you score a goal in MSG, that's got to be like, like the fan. That's got to be a crazy feeling for you.
I think, like you just said, I think as a visiting player coming into MSG. Before I played there, that was my favorite rink to play at. I love New York City. It's not too far from where I live, and just love everything about the city. And then, when I finally got the chance to play there, and you're driving into, middle of Manhattan, and you're driving to MSG, and you see all the people outside MSG, and you're pulling in the rink. You walk up the famous, steps to get up to the rink, and you go out there to take the ice, and you see all the fans. There's, like you said, there's no building like it, and they're so invested in their sports team and want a championship so bad. And, they tell you exactly how they feel about how you're playing, which they're diehard fans. And I'll never forget my time playing there because it was unbelievable. The experience of, like you said, scoring a goal with that goal song in that rink was one of the special points of my career for sure.
You got to get goosebumps. And again, shout out to the New Jersey. We're talking a lot of Rangers the past few episodes. I'm a New Jersey Devil. I'm going to keep putting it out there. But that goal horn is something else. And you definitely put some in the net there. Getting back to Anaheim, you talk about what a lot of athletes, what a lot of fans don't get is, I've been in the business of sports in general, hockey on a lower level, boxing even. The choices athletes have to make, a lot of people don't realize, like I said, it didn't work out with New York right now. At the time, a few years back, you go to Anaheim. Fans don't get it. Sometimes they get mad at the player, or why didn't they re-sign, or they get mad at the organization. But people don't realize just the business side of sports. It sucks a lot, but You go to Anaheim, and we talked about it. I mean, unfortunately, there was no playoffs this year, but you guys are stockpiled. Do you want to talk about some of the talent? Me as like kind of a stat geek, and when we had the Trashers, even I always like when I see teams like this, like my hairs stand up because you guys are ready to go on a run sooner than later, right? I mean, the talent you guys have is insane. I mean, and you're, like I said, you're an OG of the team now. I mean, you're 30 years old. Not that that's old, but I mean, in terms of your experience, you have playoff experience, you do it all. I mean, what has your role changed since you've been in Anaheim, really?
Yeah, I think just your role changed over the years as you get older, and the more younger guys you have on your teams, you have to, be a good mentor to them. And all the young guys on your team are such good kids. They want to get better every single day, and they want to be successful in this league, and they want to win too, and they want to play in the playoffs. And it's our job as older guys to help those guys, get to that next step and help them get there. And like you said, I think the prospects that we have and the guys that we got in our lineup last year, I think last year was a huge year of development for our guys.
Yeah.
Whatever we had 6 or 7 guys, first year players last year.
Yeah,
And
it's insane.
I think playing your first year in the league is you learn a lot of the ups and downs of the NHL, and some days are great, some days aren't great. So once you figure that out at an earlier age, the more team success you can have. And like I said, for me, it took a little while to figure it out, but I had a good support group of players around me that helped me get through that hump that some guys go through. And like I said, I'm really excited to be a part of that going forward.
Listen, I got to assume you have, but did you watch the Mighty Ducks as a kid? The
Always,
movie?
Yeah.
It's got to be cool to play for the Mighty Ducks. I mean, they're the Anaheim Ducks, but it's got to be cool to play for the Ducks in a way, because that's what got me into hockey, was literally watching the Mighty Ducks as like a 5-6-year-old kid, 7-year-old kid, or whatever I was. You think you guys got to go back to the old? I think you guys got to go back to the inaugural uniforms. What do you? I know you. Listen, I know you're not gonna say much, but I'm telling you, the inaugural, the Mighty Ducks uniforms, I think you guys got to go back to that. What do you?
Those are cool jerseys. I mean, we did the 30th anniversary with their kind of new twist on them, which
were
were unbelievable this year. But I don't think there's a more iconic, obviously, than the original 6 teams in the NHL, but a more iconic jersey than a Mighty Ducks jersey.
Listen, it is fire, man. I think that's got to have it. Listen, contract negotiations are going to be coming up soon. Maybe that's part of it. I think you got to be the one that leads getting back to those old jerseys, man. And I'm telling you, but let's talk about this past season, because again, man, I mean, I don't want to call it, everyone's like, oh, it was a breakout. I don't think it was a breakout season for you. I think it was just a season where everything, like you said, it's your journey, everything seemed to click this year, man. I mean, let's see, 37 goals, 23 assists, 82 games, you're durable, you do it all, man. You got one of the best shots in the league. Get your nose dirty. You had 2 fights even. Or have you had 1 fight this year?
One, if you want to count it, it was like 3 seconds.
All right, hey, it's a major's a major, man. So you're chirping, you're doing it all, man. I mean, what was it? Were you just feeling it this year? Like, did you just know, like, right after like preseason, did you just have that feeling like this is going to be a year?
No, I think opportunity is everything. I think this year was the first year where I actually was in a top 6 role right away, and kind of stuck with that, and then I think power play, getting more power play time's huge, and this was the most power play time I've ever gotten in a season. And I think for me, playing with unbelievable talent every single night. I mean, for me, I play a simple game. I try to get the playmakers the puck and get the puck in the hands of the people who are going to give it to the goal scorers. And like I said, I was fortunate enough to play with so many great players this year that made the game a lot easier on me. But at the end of the day, too, opportunity is everything, and you get opportunity to play with great players, and you get an opportunity to get more ice time. So I credit a lot of that to my teammates, and obviously believing in myself.
Well, we talked off air about this. I gotta give you a major shout out and a thank you, because this was my first year ever playing fantasy hockey. And I never played, thanks to Diamond Hands. I got into fantasy hockey. He kind of set me up, I think. He got me to agree to it 5 minutes before the draft. I actually had you and your, I'm assuming was your line mate for most of the time, Mason MacTavish. You guys together seem to have a chemistry, right? I mean, I know he had some injuries this year, but you two together, there's something there, man. You know what I mean? Can you describe him as a player, man? Because this kid is someone that's going to make his mark as the years go on.
Yeah, for most of the years, me, Mac T, and Ryan Strome, who actually I played in New York with, so obviously there's some familiarity there with him, and one of my really close buddies. And I think with Mac T, what is he, 21, 22? And
yeah.
just, he's a man. He's a beast. He's a great kid. He's going to be such a great player in this league. He's, for how talented he is and how young he is, I don't even want to, picture what he's going to be like in, 2 or 3 years. He's just going to be, a great player in this league. And, he does everything right. He's physical. He makes plays. He can shoot the puck. He skates well. And, I think with me, him, and Stromer, we're, a great trio. And we all worked off of each other, and we want to make each other better. And we communicated about everything, whether it's, on the bench, off the ice. We all, obviously, I think, having a relationship with them off the ice is a big key to what you have on the ice for success. So, it was great playing with those two guys.
We talk about hockey getting more and more popular, you know what I mean? And it's amazing how much the game has grown. Can you talk a little bit about your teammate Zegras, man? Because this guy, he was on the cover of NHL. I think it was last year, the year before, whatever. You guys give him any shit for that? Is that like, because I know traditionally in hockey, see me, I'm a showman. I would love to be on the cover of NHL. In the old days, you kind of, you score, you put your head down. What was it like in the room when he got the cover of NHL? Like, did you guys razz him a little bit? Was he high-stepping a little bit, or was he trying to play it cool? Or what was that like when he got the cover?
So when he got the cover, I just signed like that summer, so I don't know what went on behind the scenes. What the guys gave him any shit, but he's a great kid. He's one of my really good buddies. I talk to him all the time, but like that's just Z. Like I couldn't picture another guy to be on the cover than Z. He just fits. He's such a guy. He's such a good guy. You can market him any single way you want. He's really cool with a lot of that stuff. But he's an unbelievable player. He's super talented. He's the guy who's always working on his game. He's always working on his skill to get better. And, like I said, he's great.
So listen, we talk about the Ducks. You kind of like leading the ship, in my opinion. You're an OG there. You got all this young talent, crazy skills. Let's call it what it is. You guys are the Mighty Ducks. And I know they took Mighty out. You guys are the Ducks. You guys ever talk about doing a flying V?
No, we actually haven't. Maybe we'll bring it up. Maybe that'll be our new power play breakout next year.
Listen to me. I want it put here first. I like to plant seeds. Could you imagine a flying V? I feel like with the skill level today, I think you need to make fantasy a reality. Could you see you, Zegras, MacTavish? I mean, you guys, if you think about it, you have the personnel to do it. Has it ever been spoken about, a flying V?
No, I don't know. Has anyone ever even tried it in the NHL?
You got to do it, man. I'm telling you.
We'll be the first team to do it.
Listen. All-Star game. We talked about it at this jump. You had 3 points. And again, everyone knows All-Star game. It's fun. It's this and that, but I don't care. You put up 2 goals, 1 assist, and you have a registered hit. Okay? Whether you meant the hit or not, you have a hit in the All-Star game. That, to me, you're a trasher, man. What was it like playing in your first All-Star game, man?
It was cool, especially where it was in Toronto. So, obviously, that's the hockey capital of the world. They breathe hockey, eat hockey, they sleep hockey there. So, for it to be there and seeing all the old NHL alumni that were there, and obviously with my family being there not too far from home, it was great to experience that with them. But with it being in Toronto and how many people are there that love hockey and truly love hockey, especially the past few years, the NHL obviously trying to grow the game and having, the All-Star game in Vegas and having it in Florida, which is great. That's where all guys want to go to, when they're on breaks, to go to nice places. But for it to be in an actual hockey market, it was unbelievable.
Like I said, man, it's just like I'm thinking about myself as a kid. I never made it, hockey, but thinking about, you were cut from similar cloth, similar generation, and it had to be something, man. And listen, this year, one thing I noticed about you is your multi-goal games. You had 3 hat tricks. Am I wrong? Is it 3 hat tricks you had this year?
I think, it's 3.
When you get going, you seem to get going. You know what I mean? Like you're a player, and listen, you have an agent. You don't need me, but I'm gonna put it out there. This man right here, you're going into your last year of your contract, and what better guy, like you don't have a crystal ball. I know you're not going to say it even if you thought it. You got to concentrate. What's the play for you, man? Is it to me, I feel like you can really be Anaheim's franchise guy in a way. You know what I mean? To me, you're going into your last year. Have you thought about, I know you're going to say no, and you shouldn't because you have a full year left, but what's it like going into a contract year? Because I've never personally spoken to someone at this level that's going into it? Like, what's the thought process going? Is it just like every other year, or does it feel different to you at all?
No, I think honestly, it's stuff that you think about a little bit, but once you're in the heart of it and once you're in the heart of the season, you kind of forget about all that noise and that you're in a contract year. But like you said, like I'm so comfortable in Anaheim and love it there, and obviously I hope to spend the rest of my career there, however long that is, and I see the bigger picture there and how this team is going to be in years to come, and like I said, I want to be a part of it, and hopefully I am, and like I said, I love it there.
Listen, I think I'm not gonna listen. I'm not one of these podcasts looking for sound bites. I know I can already see what's gonna happen with you. I'll tell you off the air, and hopefully I'll be right. But man, you're doing it, man. Let's talk about the NHL today. We're obviously recording today. This episode comes out in a few days. Who do you like in the playoffs? Like, what's going on? And like in your mind, like when the playoffs started, did you have someone that you thought, hey, this is the team that's doing it this year? Like, what's your thought on what's going on today? With the game.
I think this year, this is like the first year where there's so many dominant teams in the league this year, and it's kind of wide open. I think if you look at that first series with Vegas and in Dallas, like that could have easily been a cup final.
Winnipeg and Colorado was insane too.
Like even that series, I think, look at what Edmonton, they have McDavid and Draisaitl. I think this is the deepest that they've ever been this year. They've obviously added Henrique, who was the ex-teammate of mine at the deadline, and Sammy Carrick. They've made the additions they need to make the next step. And, when you have two of the best players in one on your team, anything can happen. I mean, Colorado loaded up too. They have McKinnon, McCarr, and then Vegas loaded up, and they're out now. But Dallas, I think Dallas right now is everyone's talking about them, the team to be. And then you got the East, you got you got Carolina Rangers going to Game 6, and you have Boston and Florida going into Game 6. So anything now, you win that game, anything can happen. So,
it really, it's an old adage. You just got to get in. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like in the old days, it kind of felt like if you were the top 1 to 4 seed, if it kind of was a given, you're going play. But it's so crazy today. Like you said, watching these series, I filled out a bracket. I had Colorado and New York making it to the finals, but it could be anybody at this point. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like it's insane. I mean, I'm going to put you on a hot seat. You have to pick right now. And again, we're recording. By the time this comes out, a lot can change. But right now, as of today, if you for all the cannolis in the world, who do you got winning it all this year? If you had to pick.
I would say Dallas.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come out of the West. I think it's either, obviously Vancouver and Edmonton are in a tight series now, but I just think McDavid and Draisaitl are way too good. They'll eventually win, and I think any year can be their year. I like a team coming out of the West this year, so I think it's going to be Dallas, but I would like to see Edmonton obviously win too.
Okay, so you're a GM now. You're retired, all right? But it's 2024. You can't pick Connor Bedard. You have the first pick. You're an expansion team. Nobody's protected in the league. Who's your number 1 pick in the NHL? Not yourself and not Connor Bedard. Who's your pick right now to start a franchise?
Not Connor Bedard. I can't.
Not Connor Bedard. No, we're not.
Any player in the league?
Any player in the league right now.
McDavid.
I'm having trouble with this because I had an argument with someone on social media. People love to chirp me for some reason on social media, which is fun because I chirp back. I really don't care. I can't get past the fact that people just overlook Nathan McKinnon as much as they do.
Yeah.
To me, I put out a poll, Nathan McKinnon or Connor, McDavid. Everyone seems to pick McDavid. Why is it that it seems like McKinnon just seems overlooked?
I don't know. It's actually funny you say that because McKinnon's unbelievable too. I think if you top 3 players in the league, I think you can put McKinnon, Draisaitl, McDavid, and Matthews in that whole thing. So it's I just think with McDavid, he's playing in a different league. Listen, and McKinnon does the same thing too, but it's just hard to explain. Listen,
you're a player, and you're humble, you're respectful, and I get where you're at. And it's funny because when I talk to active players and past players, I know. Do you feel? And I know what you're going to say. I know. Do you feel McDavid has to win within the next 2 or 3 years before people start? Because we talk about this all the time. To me, I need a winner. You know what I'm saying? I love I think he's unreal. I do. If I'm playing NHL, I'm picking him first probably too. But my point is, at what point do you say, you know, like, do the players feel it, man? Like, you know, like we got to win one. You know what I mean? Like, how hard is it? How hard is it as a player to, and I mean, you've made the conference finals. I mean, you've had success. You're a winner. How tough is it for guys, man? Like seriously, like do guys feel it like at all? Like if they're not,
especially those guys are in a different category. Those guys are, you know, the anchors of their teams. They're the face of their franchises. So obviously they put up a lot of pressure on themselves that they need to win every single year. And all those guys think that they're the best player in the world and they want to prove it, that they've won. Like you look at, you know, Eichel obviously won in Vegas last year. You got McKinnon who's got his, and you know, all these teams want to create, you know, their dynasties and their legacies. And I think, you know, everyone always talks about how good Connor McDavid is. And, you know, he's basically today's modern day Wayne Gretzky with what he's doing. And obviously you have Draisaitl there too. So I think when you're the best at your craft is you always want to be the best in everything you do. So, you know, when they don't win, it's a failed season for them because they know that they can win. I think the window for him is, you know, it could be any single year. Like you said, it's just you got to get over that hump, and teams do it. Look at Tampa. Obviously, they had, you know, a deep team there, and it took them a couple years to go through some adversity in the playoffs to go on that dynasty. So, you know, it eventually is going to happen for them. It's whenever the time comes.
You mentioned Toronto being the hockey capital of the world, and I agree with you. What do they need, man? And again, I know you're in a spot. You're an active player. What does Toronto, in your opinion, like, how do we get them? I'll be the GM for them. I put it out there that I go for free there because I want to see a team like Toronto win it, man. You know what I mean? They got diehard fans and stuff. But we talk about this all the time. Austin, Matthew, you have all these skill guys. Are they just like a piece away? Or like, in your opinion, like certain teams with all this skill, what's like the one thing you think a team like that could benefit? Maybe that they're not missing, but they could benefit from, you think?
No, I think like every player they have on that team and everything that they have there, they have everything they need to win. I think it just, like I said, I think it just comes down to
could be timing.
matchups in the playoffs. Like they have a tough every year. They're either playing Boston or Tampa in the first round, so that's not easy. And like I said, you just have to get in. But you know, some teams have different paths to the final. But you're gonna have to play each other eventually, whether it's in the first round or the conference final. So I think it's just the way things have been going for them the past few years. I think this is the best team they've had, Toronto this year, and sometimes that just happens. You just need to, you know, go through some adversity, and they've been through it, but they're way too good to not, you know, be in the finals. They'll do it eventually.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like I said, and we talked off the air, like, you know, after we lost the Trashers, I stopped watching hockey altogether for so long, and then I come back trying to catch up with the game because it's changed so much, you know, and the skill is crazy. It seems like every team has, it's kind of like, remember the old NBA Jam game, right? You know, it's like you had like 2 or 3 stars. It's just like every team seems to have that, you know what I mean? And it's, I always wonder, because I always have like a GM cap on, like where teams can get over that hump. And it's frustrating because you see so much talent out there and you root for them, you know, like you kind of want to see them, win, man. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. We did get a couple fans reach out. You know, I put out that you were coming on and ask questions. Everyone's begging you come back to the Rangers. But favorite tattoo? Someone asked you what your favorite tattoo is, if you have one.
Well, they're gonna say that it's the skyline of Springfield on my leg.
Oh, you do? You have the scissors?
Oh yeah, I got a bunch of tattoos. I wouldn't say that's my favorite one, but that's probably what they're asking.
Okay. All right. What else we got here? Hold on 1 second. I gotta look here. Favorite teammate you ever played with, or one of your favorite?
It's gonna be that's close. I would say Keith Yandel or Joe Thornton.
Nice, yeah. You played with Jacob Trouba, didn't you?
I did. I played with Trubes when I was younger, and then I played with him obviously on the Rangers.
Again, you have no idea how hard it is for me because Jacob Trouba is my type of guy, right? And I mean, he's a boomstick, man. I mean, he's just laying guys out. Was he always like that? Is it kind of just something he developed, or was he
playing that way since he was 12 years old? So.
Where's he from, Troobs?
From Michigan.
Really? Okay, yeah. He can hit, man.
Yeah,
he can hit.
Boy.
He's a big boy, and yeah, man. I saw you play with Trouba, like, you know, juniors and stuff.
Yeah, the U.S. development program. I played with him my junior and senior year of high school, but before that, I played with him against him in summer tournaments, but that was the first time I was ever on his team.
Who's the most talented guy you've ever played with, you'd say?
Oh, it's so tough.
I know, right? I'm putting you on the spot, but it's like it's
Alexander Barkov.
Really?
Yeah, the stuff that he could do with the puck and just everything. He's so underrated and it's not talked about enough.
They got good Italian food in Anaheim, or you miss it out here?
Yeah, shout out to where we eat our pregame meal, Barolo. Great spot.
You miss it out here, though?
Oh, yeah. I haven't found good pizza yet in California. So.
Well, you were, like you said, you have a family business with a pizzeria. It's got to be tough, right? It's got to be
like
tough.
No one has the real ovens there. No one has. It's always on the conveyor belts and stuff, which I don't like that. I like actual real ovens where you have to use the corn mill and you have to put it in the wood stove oven.
You work in a pizzeria growing up?
No, I worked for 20 minutes and I got fired. So, yeah.
Youngest, well, you're the youngest. You were probably a little, don't take this the wrong way, a little spoiled. The youngest always a little, did your brothers work there or no?
Yeah, all three of my brothers worked there. They all did their individual. My one brother made the dough. One of my brothers did the prep work, and then my other brother kind of did everything. He knew how to run the business, and for me, I was always playing hockey, busy with sports. They played sports too, but they made their money in the summers and stuff, so I just didn't want to work or do what I didn't want to do. And when I was in between colleges, that's where I wanted to have my own money. I didn't want to go to my parents every day and ask for $20. Because back in the day, you used to get $20 for the week. You were fine.
You were good for $20.
Yeah, that's it.
I got a nephew. Shout out to Justin. My nephew hits us up for food money sometimes. Venmo, this and that. Man, you can't $20. I mean, that's McDonald's now, right? I mean, it's crazy how
I should be able to put $10 worth of gas in my car to be good for the week, and then have another $10 for whatever I needed for meals or whatever. So I don't know.
Well, shout out, and it's called Antonio's, right?
Yeah, Antonio's.
Antonio's. We're gonna hit that up in Springfield next time we're out there. Listen, man, you've been real generous with your time, man. I really can't thank you enough. And this is gonna be a big year for Frank Vatrano, man. I'm telling you, we gotta you gotta watch out for this Ducks team. And yeah, man, anyone you want to shout out or anything before we head off?
All good. No shout-outs for me right now.
Antonio's. We're going to Antonio's. We're going to get some grind. So you call them grinders then, right?
Yeah.
See, it's weird. This is where we're weird.
Must be a Western Mass thing.
No, because here it's so split. Is grinders or it's heroes?
Oh, really? They say heroes
It's
here.
heroes and grinders.
They don't say subs?
I guess there's subs out there, but so we know we're going to Antonio's grinders. That's where it's out. Big shout out to the Vatrano family. Frankie, appreciate you, man, for all the time. Always welcome, man. Hey, guys, remember, subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Looking forward to catching up with you guys next week.